For Brother George Jackson by Archie Shepp. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Nermeen Sheikh. As we talk about climate change today, I want to play a comment from Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper. I interviewed him in 2009. He was actually the mayor of Denver at the time, and he was attending the UN Climate Change Conference in Copenhagen.
The whole question about extreme climate change as being the direct result of greenhouse gases, the argument that continually gets put back is look at the Dust Bowl in the Great Depression, right? And that was before we had anywhere like these types of CO2 buildup. How do you tell which dramatic climate changes are the result of CO2 emissions and greenhouse gases and which ones aren't? And that's, you know, that level of scientific application is still, I mean, I think most people agree that the modeling is, again, it's hard work. There's a lot of noise on it. I think what the real key is, we know that climate change is occurring, right? Everyone knows that. We know it's dramatic. We know that mankind is the vast majority of it is a result of our actions. So we need to address it and move quickly.
That was Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper. At the time, he was the mayor of Denver. He was in Copenhagen for the Climate Change Summit. Jeff Masters, you're a meteorologist with Weather Underground, which was just bought by the Weather Channel, and that made me think of Dr. Heidi Cullen, who got tremendous fire as a meteorologist at Weather Channel when she said meteorologists, something like, shouldn't be certified unless they know about climate change. Can you talk about the significance of what Hickenlooper is saying? Now, the governor of Colorado, we're hearing him everywhere, but journalists are not asking him about global warming, though they are, of course, asking him to talk about the fires.
Yes, it's difficult to talk about whether a specific event is tied to global warming or not without doing a detailed study, which takes many months, typically, with a computer model to see just exactly what the influences might be. But we do know that if you've got a warming climate, this sort of extreme heat event that we're having is more likely. But we don't know back in the 1930s exactly what was going on. That was a very interesting time because, yes, a lot of that heat that we experienced then was due to natural causes, but it was also due to the fact that we basically turned the Midwest into a giant kind of parking lot for generating extreme heat through very poor farming practices. So a component of that heat wave was not natural. And this past June's weather was the most extreme since the Dust Bowl era as far as June temperatures go and extreme records. So we're back towards what we saw back in the 30s, and that should give us all some concern that we're getting Dust Bowl type weather, which is very devastating for the American economy.
Suzanne Goldenberg, I want to turn to the work of the Heartland Institute, which you've written about, especially about the recent expose on their work. Can you explain who they are, what they have to do with climate denial, climate science deniers, and what this expose revealed?
Well, the Heartland Institute is an organization that's been based in Chicago and has been in operation for about 25 years. And they're an extreme, ultra-conservative, libertarian think tank. And over the last number of years, they made it among their mission to discredit the science of climate change in many ways. And they sort of set themselves up to be a hub for people who didn't believe that climate change was man-made. They began having annual conferences. They put forward a bunch of so-called experts who claimed to be scientists who did not believe with mainstream science that the climate was changing and that human activity, specifically industrial activity, was having a part in it. And so what they were doing on a broader scale, where they fit in, is that their mission really was to create doubt about the fact that climate change was occurring. And when there's doubt, then it's very hard to put policy in place. So they were one of a number of groups doing this, but they were among the most prominent, and they had previously had links to ExxonMobil and the Koch brothers, as well as a number of mainstream corporations. Now, in February last year, February this year, excuse me, the water scientist Peter Glick obtained through deception. He basically pretended to be a member of the board of Heartland, and he obtained a number of confidential documents that were prepared for a board meeting. And these documents really shone more of a light on the inner workings of Heartland. They were important for two reasons. One, they contained a donors list, so we got to know who exactly was giving money to this organization. That was something they had never disclosed. And there were some surprises in that list because there were some mainstream corporations there, like General Motors Foundation, which has a corporate policy of believing in climate change and of having sustainable business practices. The second thing it revealed that I think was interesting was their project to discredit climate change was really laid bare. And among those activities that they were engaged in was a project they wanted to set up that would specifically target children, school children from kindergarten age, and basically indoctrinate these children so that they did not believe in the science they were being taught in schools. And those were the two most striking things that came out of that expose.
And what happened as a result, once this expose was revealed? What happened as a result to the Heartland Institute?
Well, basically the organization is imploding. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's been a lot of backlash against Peter Glick. People have questioned whether that was an appropriate thing for scientists to be doing. But really, Heartland has been done a lot of damage. Once exposed, a lot of their mainstream donors decided they didn't want to fund that organization anymore. And Heartland actually compounded the damage because they adopted a very combative approach. They took out a billboard comparing people who believe in climate change to the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski. And that just started a whole new flight of other donors. So really, they've put themselves beyond the pale. They've made themselves seem a very extreme right-wing organization, where before they had adopted this posture of being sort of skeptical, probing the science, trying to get the most rational policy. All that posture is just gone now. They've been exposed for being an extremely conservative organization.
A TV meteorologist who's been criticized for failing to connect extreme weather patterns to global warming has been CNN's Rob Marciano. I want to play a 2007 CNN report covering a story about a British judge who was considering banning Al Gore's movie An Inconvenient Truth from schools in England.
Schools may have to issue a warning before they show students the controversial movie about global warming.
Finally, somebody.
So you don't agree?
Oh, there are definitely some inaccuracies. And, you know, the Oscars, they give out awards for fictional films as well. Well, the biggest thing I have a problem with is his implication that Katrina was caused by global warming. And there's a number of studies that have been out, and really the jury's still out. Global warming does not conclusively cause stronger hurricanes like we've seen.
That's Rob Marciano, news and weather anchor for CNN Worldwide. Jeff Masters, your response. You're a meteorologist with Weather Underground.
Polarizing figure. He's a politician, but he did write a good book, and he did make a good movie with a lot of excellent science on climate change. Was it perfect? No. There were some inaccuracies in it. Should it be shown in schools? I think that individual schools have to make that own decision. But we do have a lot of resources out there by people who aren't politicians on climate change and climate science. We certainly should be bringing those more to people's attention.
Well, what about this issue that across the TV networks, there is more and more attention devoted to weather, as it should be? I mean, 2,000 records broken just in the last month. It's astounding. And every day, a record is broken after the day before the record was broken. But that there is no discussion of climate change by these meteorologists.
I think it's important for the public to hear that what we're seeing now is the future. We're going to be seeing a lot more weather like this, a lot more impacts like we're seeing from this series of heat waves, fires, and storms. And we better prepare for it. We better educate people what's going on, give the best science that's out there on what climate change is doing and where it's likely to head. I think we're missing a big opportunity here, or our TV meteorologists are, to educate and tell the population what is likely to happen. This is just the beginning, this kind of summer weather we're having.